welcome to Let's Talk About Emotions. I'm so delighted to have you here. My name is Anchen. I'm a licensed DEI trainer and consultant, and I teach a series of courses at Empathy Academy called the Befriending Series, befriending anger, shame, fear, and sadness. I have with me today two wonderful people. I'm so excited to be speaking with you today. I have Jeanette Brynn, a licensed DEI trainer and consultant, and she's also an instructor at Empathy Academy. And then I have Lindsay Szczesny. She is also a DEI trainer and consultant, and she is also a musician and a mother of 5 who lives in Southern Utah. So welcome. I'm delighted to have you here today. We are going to talk about how do you get your emotions to flow? What is this all about? This is one of the great questions, especially if you're used to repressing your emotions or ignoring your emotions. If you feel like you don't have emotions, it can be really frustrating, especially if somebody says, oh, well, I just flowed with my emotions, and you want to smack them because you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. So today we're going to talk about what are the emotions behind getting your emotions to flow, just beginning to start that process, and then what it feels like to feel stuck, and then what it feels like to allow your emotions to flow. What does that actually look like in real life? Mm-hmm. Let's start by talking about what are the emotions behind allowing your emotions to flow.
Yeah.
It's a great question. The first one that comes to my mind is anger, because it's the boundary setting emotion that helps us feel safe within our own space. If we have a loose boundary, then the emotions might be a little more unwilling to present themselves to us because we aren't as contained, and it might not feel as safe to the self to allow a lot of things to come forward until there's a established, I'm here, the rest of the world is out there. So that's the one that comes to my mind.
Such a good point. Having a safe container to hold your emotions, especially if you're feeling some intense things, can be so important. I'm also thinking of sadness, because for me, anger was very clear, but I was bad at letting things go. And so welcoming my sadness and recognizing, oh, I really wanted that, but now I don't. And so I can let that go. Or, I was just in this stressful meeting, but now I'm not. And I can let that go. Mm-hmm. And sighing for me is actually a really good way of welcoming my sadness. It's a kind of a physical connection between what I'm feeling emotionally and what my body is feeling physically.
Yeah, something that came to me while you're talking that helps me, and it's not always easy for me to get to it, is some laughter and happiness. So, and that is when I'm stuck and I find a friend and I'm talking and I start laughing, and then suddenly I can start to feel more of what's actually going on underneath. It just kind of opens up, and maybe I'll start to realize there's something else that's really wanting me to be heard, wanting me to hear, wanting to be heard and to be here and here, be here and be heard.
There you go.
And there's confusion. Yeah. I mean, when you asked this question, when I first thought about it, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like all the emotions have a part of this. Like, how do you even pick one of them? And which one is behind? Because it just can be so personal and situation specific. And what you brought up, Lindsay, is really, really powerful. I hadn't thought of that, like having that anchor set so you have that safe space to really feel and listen to what's going on. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Seems like what is important about allowing your emotions to flow is having a sense of openness, right, of acceptance, of curiosity that says, hey, well, what is this that I'm feeling? Instead of a judgment around what you're feeling of like, oh, I'm angry, I can't be angry. And so what's the emotion behind the openness? Maybe it is curiosity and soft fear. It's kind of like I'm imagining kind of like a little fog around your boundary, you know, where you're just kind of like feeling out like, what's going on around here? What am I feeling and what wants to be expressed?
One of the things that comes to my mind with that is just that scenario where I am lying in bed feeling a lot of stuff and I can't figure it out. So there's not a flow, it's just a bombardment. And I'm not sure what's happening. I guess some of the words that I would describe are I feel like crap. I feel really overwhelmed. I'm stressed out. Those kind of words come forward when I don't know what's happening. So there's not a flow. It's like an overwhelm of emotion. And in those times, I guess the thing that helps me the most is the vocabulary list of all the emotions. And so when I get that out, and then I just start reading through all the different emotions and like just noticing, okay, I found a lot in this particular spot. It helps to start to eliminate what's happening. So then you can start to say, okay, everything's kind of focused on sadness. I didn't know that I was feeling sadness, but now I do. And then once that happens, I can start to work with the emotion because I know something's trying to be let go. And then that brings clarity. And flow can happen with sadness because now I've defined what it is that's happening. I don't know if that's exactly what you were talking about with the fog, but that's what helps me.
Yeah. I mean, being able to identify what you're feeling, it clarifies, right? From rather when you're in a fog to being able to put your finger on it and say, hi, sadness.
Yes.
What do I need to release or what needs rejuvenation? And you can ask yourself the questions.
Yeah.
It's funny you just said that, Lindsay, because I only just recently did that. As long as I've been doing this work,
Really?
I get into what I call an emotional pileup. I mean, it's just and it's been a long history of just, and usually in the morning, and it's slowly been loosening. That knot and that pileup slowly been loosening the more I've been learning. But the other day, I literally stopped and I went, hang on a second, what exactly is going on? And I grabbed the vocabulary list and I started looking for every word that could possibly fit. And it was really fascinating. I actually stopped and wrote, I got the vocabulary list and started looking at every possible nuance of how I was feeling. Because I tend to go, okay, I can tell I'm feeling anxiety. Oh, shoot. And for me, it's like, you've got to do something about your anxiety. And I know to work with it, but there's this pile up. So I just went in and started to look at all the nuanced words. And it was a really interesting way to see all the words that I identified. And then I saw one that was more prevalent. They were all there and they all needed attention. But the one that was really shame, all the words for shame was there more, and some panic was there. So I was like, what healing action needs to happen? You know, what needs to be made right. And then it loosened things up and I was able to actually go, I need to move. My body usually needs to move to help me get some of my emotions flowing. And yeah, and that's hard for me to listen to. Even though I'm a very active and dynamic, get me in these situations, I'm moving. But when I'm in an emotion pileup, it's like where are the authorities? Can we loosen up this accident that's in the middle of the traffic zone? All the alarms are going off. People are trying to help. My emotions are going, we gotta help. And I guess that's where I reference a little bit of that laughter, because I recently have found some things where once I do that and I see what's going on and I work with that emotion a little bit, then I start to move. And I've found some things that get me kind of lightening up a little bit, and then I can hear them better. I can go in deeper with the rest of them. Yeah. And feel some flow.
So something that's occurring to me, both of you just talked about using the emotional vocabulary list to note it, to look for what is it that I'm feeling. And I'm wondering, as you're doing that, are you actually kind of feeling the emotions as you are picking them out on the vocabulary list? Like, oh, irritation, yeah, I feel that. Or gosh, shame, oh, I'm feeling really humbled right now. Yeah, I definitely feel that, sort of a thing. So you're kind of going through and allowing your emotions to flow as you're picking out what you're feeling, and it's giving you a name for the feeling you're already having.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And for me, it feels like it's helpful to actually read stuff like that's listed under happiness, because then I very vividly can see that's not where I'm at. And in fact, it's shocking to even read those words and imagine feeling them, because I don't in the moment. So that helps me define what is happening, because I'm contrasting it with some of the words on the list that don't apply in the moment. And so then it becomes more clear. Instead of just everything's horrible, it's like, okay, now I can see what's happening. And like you said, Jeanette, a lot of times for me, it's shame, but it can be other stuff too. It can be so many others.
Yeah.
There were a lot clear.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I just said it, just becoming clear, just becoming very, centered on what's really going on. That's all.
Also helping you identify the different emotions coming up at different intensities. That's one of the magical things about the vocabulary list is, like Jeanette, you were saying that you were experiencing like this pile up of so many things. It's like, how do you start untangling this, right? Mm-hmm. You start by one thread at a time, and usually that's the thickest thread. It's the easiest one to see. So for you, it was like, hey, here's shame. Here's the thick thread. And then you can start untangling around it. Well, okay, there's some soft envy and jealousy here, or I'm feeling some medium state anger around this situation that's not my fault and that I'm being blamed for, or oh, and there's definitely some sadness. Oh, I've got so much to let go of around here, and that would really help me, or whatever it might be. And so being able to identify those, the emotional vocabulary list is a great resource for that, because they're all arranged in the different intensities. And so it's like it's already done for you. All you have to do is identify, like, oh yeah, I'm feeling this.
Yeah. And exactly when you define between the intensities, then you can kind of calm yourself down, because it's not, for me, it's not usually the most intense one. I mean, it's possible, but usually it's the soft or the medium. Because sometimes when things are really intense, it's clear that you're feeling anger or rage. But it's the lower, it's the more soft emotions that become difficult to tease out, because they're kind of more subtle. And that's why it's helpful to read the intense ones and say, well, okay, I had a lot more in the mood state. I'm pretty intense, but I'm not quite there yet. So that's helpful too, to just define not just the emotion itself, but how intense it is. Yeah.